Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Gameweek 11 team selection where the bench boost is active and I'm pretty sure I'm going to take a -4 hit. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that intro. I'm not going to lie, I just had a bit of a malfunction there, and I couldn't remember which way I was supposed to nod my head. I almost got whiplash deciding which way to go. But yeah, I'll leave that in for you to have a little laugh at me on this Friday morning. And I'm going to try to keep this video short, which is always funny when I say that because it's usually 45 minutes long because it is double upload day. And later today, I will have my deadline decisions video out where we're going to discuss key transfers, benching, captaincy, which I think is massive. And of course, round up the news from the press conferences as well in terms of that key injury information. So this one will hopefully be a shorter video. But as I said in the intro, I'm pretty sure as of right now, unless we get some news on Friday afternoon or Friday morning, which changes it, I think I'm going to take a -4 hit. And I think I'm going to bench boost. Now, I'd like to get ahead of the comments because if you've watched a lot of my content and you've watched me for a while, you will know I always tell people, please do not take a hit to bench boost. Because the whole point of a bench boost is it's supposed to gain you points. If you're taking a -4 or -8 to try and get a better bench, you're already taking 4 or 8 points off of the bench. So I'll see people take a -8 hit and their bench will get like 15 points. They're like, great. It's probably only gained you 7 at that stage if you're taking a hit for the sake of the bench boost. But when you see the -4 hit that I'm looking at later, I think I might make it even if I don't bench boost because they're just players that I want to bring in and transfers that I need to make. So my copium and way that I'm explaining it to myself is I'm not taking the hit for the bench boost. I'm taking a hit and it's allowing me to bench boost. Hopefully that makes sense. But all of that nonsense out the way, let's discuss the team. And the goalkeeper and defense situation, I'm super happy with. I've got Pope and Dubravka. Yes, they're both playing away. And I'm aware, by the way, a lot of my players playing away this week. It is what it is. But yeah, both away fixtures. But both players and fixtures where you could see a clean sheet, right? I don't think Pope against Brentford away is perfect, and Dubravka obviously plays for Burnley, so you can't ever expect a clean sheet, especially again playing away from home. But both of these keepers make a lot of saves, and they both at least have a reasonable chance of keeping a clean sheet this week. As to who I will start, if for some reason I don't play the bench boost, I think I would lean to Pope just because I think Newcastle are a very good defence. They can keep clean sheets even though these haven't come very often in the Premier League recently. And so yeah, I would just lean Pope. But it shouldn't matter if I'm bench boosting. Both of them will get me the points. And I'm still so happy with the back five of Richards, Gabriel, Anderson, Rodon, Senesi. Rodon for me is top 3 cheap defenders, probably along with Mukiele and Alderete at Sunderland. But I think Rodon's fantastic. Leeds are still sat 3rd for expected goals conceded this season. I know Brighton just put a few goals past, and that is bound to happen to any team, really, but especially a newly promoted team. But largely, I've been super impressed with Leeds. Rodon can get DEFCON. He's pretty actually good in the air as well. He's had quite a few shots this season. So Rodon's great. Richards and Anderson as 2 cheap defenders that love DEFCON are actually playing for 2 good defences, by the way. Fulham are 7th or 8th for XGC. Crystal Palace are around mid-table, but both teams can get clean sheets. Really happy with them. Neither of them have a perfect fixture this week against Brighton and Everton, respectively, for Richards and Anderson, but they do the job. And at that cheaper price, unless either of them get injured, I will just keep them indefinitely in my team. Senesi is the one that could possibly make way in the future. No time soon, but just because he's at that price, right? Rodon's super cheap. Richards and Anderson are also really cheap. My other defender is Gabriel, who has got 55 points in the last 5 games, and which is more than Erling Haaland, averaging 11 points per game over the last 5. So I don't really want to sell any of them, and I can't see myself selling any of them anytime soon. Whereas Senesi's at that price now where if I wanted to get to a Munoz or a Reece James, who is performing incredibly well at the moment, or if I want to move to a Liverpool defender, even Virgil van Dijk, not been perfect so far this season, but with the fixtures coming up, Senesi is probably the one that will have to make way. But with the fixtures coming up, DEFCON potential, he also has some decent attacking threat. He's usually okay for baseline bonus. I just look at that 5-man defense right now, and when you also see my attack, I can just see the transfers for the foreseeable future being used in the attack instead. So yeah, as of right now, Pope, Dubravka, Richards, Gabriel, Anderson, Rodon, Senesi. That means that 3 of the players on my bench boost out of 4 is Dubravka against West Ham, Rodon against Forest, and Senesi against Villa. Yes, all of them are playing away, but I think they're great assets, decent enough fixtures. Let's move on to the midfield. So moving on to my midfield 5, and it's probably not quite as good as my defence, or at least I'm not quite as happy with it, and there's maybe a bit more to discuss. but I'm also pretty okay with it, especially considering that one of the players will be leaving my team this week. And once that one player does leave, it looks even better. So yeah, my midfield 5 as of right now is Iliman Ndiaye, who is flagged, but I don't believe that to be an issue as of right now against Fulham at home. We've got Ismail Assar against Brighton at home, Saka against Sunderland away, Semenyo against Villa away, and then Anton Stack on the bench. So yeah, those 4 starting midfielders, Ndiaye, Sarr, Saka, Semenyo, I'm really happy with them. Of course, there are midfielders that I would love to own instead as well. I'd like one of Brian Mbeumo or Bruno Fernandes. I'd love Enzo Fernandez as well, who I think has been dodging points recently. And eventually, I might want to get Mohamed Salah in there. And there are other cheap assets like Caicedo that I think is great. Paquetá, I think this week in particular, is really good. I've probably forgotten a whole host, Declan Rice, of course, of assets that are really decent. But yeah, I just think all 4 of those, they're just exactly what I want. What do I want from a midfielder? Really good minutes, the ability to score goals. I want them to feel fairly talismanic, like they're involved in a lot of what their team do. And these guys have that. And some of them are involved in more than just open play stuff, right? Ndiaye has penalties, Saka has penalties and set pieces. Semenyo could possibly be on penalties, depending who's on the pitch. Ismail Assar is the only one that doesn't. But this man's underlying data from open play is always exceptional. The reason I'm actually recording this on Thursday night for a Friday morning upload is I wanted to see the Crystal Palace game. I wanted to make sure that none of my Palace assets got injured, which I don't think they have. And I just wanted to assess them a bit more. Sarr goes and gets a brace. He won a penalty, which Mateta missed, and he missed a big chance. Ifs, buts, and maybes, but we're looking at an FPL performance there where it's 2 goals, an assist, and a big chance miss. Like, he can go, absolutely. And we've seen it in the Prem as well. Massive. Now, recently, he's not been returning in the Prem, at least not to the standard that you'd expect. And it's frustrating me more than you can imagine that every midweek, the likes of Saka and Sarr are just scoring and assisting non-stop in other competitions. But that's just the luck of the draw. Like, Sarr and Saka aren't looking at it and going, oh, I'm scoring Champions League and Europa Conference League goals, and I'm scoring in the EFL Cup. They're just viewing it as they're playing football. And it just so happens, unfortunately, for us FPL managers, that they are doing it in different competitions. Now, you could argue that Sarr is playing against weaker defences, but they are quality footballers. So as much as the likes of Saka and Sarr have been really disappointing in the Premier League, I certainly think they are still fantastic assets, and I'm very happy to have them. Just on Iliman Ndiaye's flag, by the way, apparently, according to Moyes, it was cramp. Now, the only quote that I've seen around this was directly after the game. He said that it was cramp, he was a bit worried, so he came off. Now, I've not seen anything else, and the reason that his flag hasn't been lifted is we've not had a comment yet from Moyes. I would expect, though, that we get training pictures or he clears it up very soon. Of course, if Iliman Ndiaye is a major doubt, that probably throws the whole bench boost idea out of the window, because I've already got a couple of issues to sort. I'm looking at a -4. I'm not taking a -8 hit this week, so I might still take the -4 hit, even if I don't bench boost, as I said, but it probably would ruin it. I can't really afford to have any further issues, so I'm hoping that it is just a classic case of he probably shouldn't be flagged, he's absolutely fine, and he'll play, and I'm very happy to have him. I know there's a bit of a clash between him and Anderson. I'm playing both. You can't avoid clashes all the time in FPL, so yeah. That's it on Ndiaye, Saka, and Sarr. I'm very happy to have them. And a lot of people looking at choosing between bringing in one of Sarr or Saka at the moment. And I'm very glad to have the pair of them. Semenyo's been really disappointing recently. If you didn't watch my Game Week guide video, I highly recommend it. We spoke about Saka and Semenyo in a lot of detail. Semenyo's only had 1 assist in the last 3 games, 0 goals, only 3 shots in the box. And he's averaging less than 0.1 non-penalty expected goal involvement in the last 3 games. Now, very small sample size. But I do think that what we will start to see from Semenyo from now on is I do think his goal threat and assist threat will probably come down a little bit lower. And also, he won't continue to overperform at such a high level. What does that mean? Just don't expect returns like you saw at the start of the season. He will score goals. He will get assists. But unless you're expecting like a crazy Chris Wood level of overperformance, Semenyo is always going to slow down. So I still think he's a great asset. I don't think it's impossible that I sell him at some point soon, but it's not going to be before West Ham at home, which is in Game Week 12 after the international break. And the other thing I like about Semenyo, he's played 90 minutes in every single game. The busy Christmas period is coming up. Do you know who's not going to miss any minutes? Semenyo. And that is such a lovely feeling to have in your team, knowing that a player is absolutely nailed on. And I'm sure after I've said that, he'll go and get benched. But no, it's just so important to that Bournemouth team. So yeah, Anton Stack's the only issue. And by the way, a couple of Leeds fans said there is a chance that he does start in Game Week 11, but I don't want to risk it if I'm bench boosting. And also, every week he's just not an option. Now, I don't necessarily hate that. Lots of people have a Guiu or a Krupi or a King, where your 8th attacker just never plays. And if you do want to bench one of your other attackers, you just play a back 4. maybe that's the play. Maybe you don't need 8 attackers, but I like the options and I like the squad depth. And I'm just looking at stack every week and I'm just like, if one of my other players gets injured, like if Njai gets injured this week, I have to play a defender. I want the ability to go and play another attacker instead. So, yeah, I just don't want Stack in my team anymore. Even if I wasn't bench boosting, I'd be looking at him right now and just thinking, I need to get him out of my team. Because even if he does start, his defcon potential has been rubbish. His attacking threat other than 1 week has been pretty low. All in all, he was just an absolute horror pick, and I'm very excited to get rid. So yeah, Njai, Sarr, Saka, Semenyo, very happy with. Stack I'd like to sell. Obviously, I've got 0 in the bank. So if I don't make another move, Stack would have to go to another cheap midfielder like Weafer or Dewsbury Hall or Longstaff. And there are a lot that I like. But instead, because I have Victor Gyökeres, as we'll discuss in a second, I might be able to free up some funds. So moving on to the front three, and it is Erling Haaland, who does currently have the armband, but I will discuss in the video later today that there are some really interesting viable alternatives to Haaland. Jean-Philippe Mateta, who himself is also a viable captaincy option against Brighton at home. And then also Victor Gyökeres, who is currently, as of me recording this, late on Thursday evening, orange flagged. But I'm expecting Arteta to rule him out in the press conference, and he'll become red flagged. Just on the very small chance that he is deemed fit, I would keep him, absolutely, because there's just no need to take him out. I don't think there are any forwards that I massively prefer, at least this week in particular. But it's not going to happen, because it sounds by all accounts like he will be out until at least after the international break going into Game Week 12. So, yeah, Victor Gyökeres basically has to be sold. Now, there is a world where you now look at this team. If I were to not bench boost, I could bench Gyökeres, start Rodon in a 4-4-2 and roll the transfer. So I do want to at least explain and bring to your attention that possibility that I might decide, actually, do you know what? I don't like the bench boost. Maybe like I say, Iliman Ndiaye is a major doubt. And I say, actually, do you know what? There aren't any forwards this week that I desperately want to sell Gyökeres for. Like, you could go for a Bowen or a João Pedro and go for a short-term pump. But at the same time, maybe having the extra free transfers would be worth it. So yeah, if I get put off the bench boost, and I also get put off the idea of selling Gyökeres, I could just play a 4-4-2 and roll. And worst case, if Njai also then missed out, or another player missed out, it would basically be like a 5-3-2 or something like that, where all 5 of my defenders play. But I've already spoken about the 5-man defense. I think they're pretty decent, and defenders have been doing well in FPL. So yeah, there is a world in which I roll, but more realistically, come on now, I'm 2.8 million. Let's just have some fun with FPL. Let's make a couple of transfers. Let's take a hit. I really do like blow out of proportions how bad a hit is every now and again. And the reason I try to tell you not to take hits is because they can come a bit addictive and you can do it every single week. And if you do a hit every single week, they usually won't pay off. But every now and again, if you take a -4 hit to sort your team out, buy some players you want, restructure, have some fun and play a chip, we are often losing sight of what FPL is supposed to be about, which is picking players you want and having fun. So in the spirit of that, I think I want to take a -4 hit to sell Gyökeres, downgrade him to someone, as we'll discuss in a second, and then use that money to upgrade Stack and bench boost. And if it's an 8-point bench boost or a 6-point or worse, well, when we can all laugh at me and it will just be an absolute horror season. But on the off chance it goes well, it's the sort of momentum that you need, especially going into an international break. It's been a long, difficult start to the season, and I'm ready to have a big green arrow and have some fun and play my bench boost chip. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm not trying to say that it's optimal. I'm not trying to say that you should take a -4 hit and play the bench boost this week. Do what feels right for you. And for me, this is what feels right. So yeah, Gyökeres and Stack out. If you imagine a team with those two as 2 better players, it's actually looking pretty decent. So let's discuss the 2 possible options that I'm looking at right now in terms of selling the pair of them and who I might move to. So then, guys, let's discuss the possible transfers of Stack and Gyökeres out and who I could possibly bring in. So as of right now, I see 2 ways that I can spend this money, because this will give me 14 million selling Stack and Gyökeres, which is quite a lot of money, actually. So I can either spread the money quite evenly, which is what I'm looking at in option 1 here, where I'm going for kind of a 6.5 to 7 million forward and then a 6.5 to 7 million midfielder. So basically spreading the money equally between those 2 positions. And then option 2, which is flipping the money from Gyökeres into the midfield. So going for an expensive midfielder and a cheap forward. In terms of, before we even discuss the personnel and the players that I'm looking at bringing in terms of structure, I think you can look at either of these as being the slightly better structure, but both are viable, right? Option 1, where I spread the money into the 2 positions, this just gives me so many options each week. Like, my cheapest attacker would be about 6.5 million. Well, yes, that will give me benching headaches, but it also means when I pick up injuries or I have suspensions or I just have a player that has a bad fixture, I've always got a really, really good option available to me. So yeah, there'll be a lot more benching headaches, but maybe also the possibility for more points. But with option 2, I'm just taking that benching decision away. You just play your best attackers every week and have more money invested in your 11 and less money invested in your bench. But of course, it would also make my bench boost weaker because I'd be bringing in a cheap attacker. So before we even discussed which players, I just wanted to at least acknowledge the very different structures that this would cause in my team. So let's go through option 1, which as of right now, I'd say is slightly more likely, which is spreading the money evenly between the two positions. So it would look something like stack to Enzo Fernandez or Declan Rice. Those are the two that I've narrowed it down to. And then I'd be selling Gyökeres to someone below 7.3, 7.2. If I went for Enzo Fernandez, I'd have exactly the money to go and get Sesko, by the way, which I'm not going to do, but I would love to do. But instead, I'm looking at probably Thiago or Welbeck. Between Enzo and Rice, I actually think this is extremely close. I think they're both fantastic assets, hence me wanting to bring them both in. I just feel like with Enzo Fernandez, I have been dodging points recently. Like, I really feel quite fortunate that he's not gone relatively big in the last couple of weeks. Every time I watch Chelsea, I just think he's fantastic. He's just so involved. His underlying data is brilliant. His minutes are fantastic. If you remember last season, if you watched my content for a little while, firstly, thank you for doing so. I owned Enzo Fernandez for like 18 game weeks or something ridiculous last season. It was crazy. And people were saying, just Ross, sell Enzo Fernandez. But I saw how good of a footballer he is and how involved he is. And as soon as I ended up selling him, he went on that run where he outscored Palmer across like a 6 to 8 week period. So I just think Enzo Fernandez is so good. And I really like him. And with Wolves and Burnley in the next two, I don't have a Chelsea asset right now. That feels crazy going into those two fixtures. He could be on penalties, takes the odd set piece, especially if Reece James isn't on the pitch. And yeah, I just think he's really involved. And he doesn't take that many shots, Enzo, but when he does, they tend to be pretty big chances. So as of right now, I'm leaning Enzo. I just feel like I actually genuinely think across the next 2 weeks he's a captaincy option in both weeks. With Declan Rice, I really like him. Long term, he's a fantastic option. He's offering much better value than Bukayo Saka. And I'm selling Gyökeres, so I free up the position. I think eventually I should probably pivot back to double Arsenal defence. And I think there is a chance I will want to do that, even when the fixtures become more difficult. Declan Rice just locks me back into double Arsenal attack. And I also think his underlying data is not that great. Now, you might not believe in it. He's got a great shot from outside the box. And his set pieces are so ridiculous. He will continue to pick up assists. But when I look at Enzo versus Rice, I just think Enzo is more of a me pick in FPL. And it does leave that third Arsenal spot open. Whether I go back to Gyökeres, maybe, who knows in the future. Whether it be Timber, whether it be I end up going for Rice eventually. I just quite like that flexibility of leaving it open. And with the fixtures coming up, I'm not that desperate to own a third Arsenal right now if it wasn't a defender. So yeah, I would say I'm probably 75% Enzo, 25% Rice. And then in terms of Thiago or Welbeck, I'm like 55% Thiago right now, 45% Welbeck. But I am flip-flopping back and forth on this. I think they are both great assets, but neither of them are fantastic, exceptional value. Neither of them come without issues. Like, for me, I just watch Thiago, and I don't watch him and get excited about the way that he plays football. That shouldn't be a huge thing, but I also think his underlying data has been okay. I think it's like 0.35 non-pen expected goals. That's okay. He'll get an expected goal non-penalty every 3 games. Welbeck's is a little bit better, but Welbeck is getting on a bit. And Brighton attackers under Hurts, so they just get randomly benched. And Welbeck, like, how confident am I when we get to the busy Christmas period that Welbeck can string together consecutive 90s every single week? I'm not so sure. The thing that I like about Thiago slightly more, as well as him just being a bit younger and maybe more likely to pay consecutive 90s, is his fixtures rotate much better with my existing attackers. So the week where Thiago's got Arsenal, all of my other attackers have really good fixtures, so I can bench him that week. The one bad fixture that Welbeck has, I think it's in 15 or 16 or 17, he's got Liverpool. The week where he has Liverpool, I've got Crystal Palace playing against Man City, and then another one of my attackers has a bad fixture. So basically, the one week where I just really wouldn't want to play Thiago, I can bench him. The one week where I really wouldn't want to play Welbeck, I kind of have to play him, or I bench him, I have to play other really weak attackers. So I guess Thiago just rotates better. And also, he's cheaper. So if I think they are genuinely that close, maybe just opt for the slightly cheaper asset. So as of right now, stack to Enzo, Gyökeres to Thiago, it's a bit boring. They're not the most exciting moves in the world, but that is where I'm leaning. But don't be surprised if by the deadline I've gone for Rice and Welbeck, because I think they are also great. Those moves leave me around 1 million in the bank, which I love. 1 million you can do a lot with. Like, that might be the money that can go and get me from Senesi to Munoz if I want to make that move. Or, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of money to have sat there, and I don't mind having that for flexibility moving forward. So, yeah, I really like option 1. Option 2 is if I just decide I want Brian Mbeumo or Bruno Fernandes, because the fixtures coming up for Man United are brilliant. And attacking-wise, Man United have been good since game week 1. Every single week you look at the underlying data for the teams, and United is consistently right at the top for non-penalty expected goals. And the two of these assets, they offer so much. They're very different FPL assets. Brian Mbeumo, super close to goal. Eye test-wise, you're like, oh, he's right on the cusp of a return. Bruno Fernandes, you feel like he's playing CDM whenever you watch him. But his data does add up. He's probably still on penalties. He gets the DEFCON. He just finds ways to get returns. And he's so good for baseline bonus. Like, I think Mbeumo and Fernandes are both great in their own right. And also, the gap between them in price is closing. Like, if you told me there was $1 million between them, I'd go Mbeumo. But it's no longer $1 million. And the closer the gap gets, the more I'm even tempted by Bruno Fernandes. Now, people won't like this. They'll say, Ross, you don't need Mbeumo or Fernandes. But I do think they are great assets. If I could go and get Mbeumo or Fernandes alongside a Thiago or something like that, I would do that. Like, I would probably prefer Mbeumo and Bruno to Enzo and Rice. However, they're more expensive. And me going for Mbeumo or Bruno would mean that instead of going for Thiago or Welbeck, I have to go for Foster or Krupi. I actually have up to 5.6 million if I go for Brian Mbeumo. I have up to 5.1 million if I go for Fernandes. But there aren't any forwards that I would want around that price. Isidore, as of right now, I think is 5.6. But he's got Arsenal this week. And I know it's not only about this week, but I am bench boosting this week. And also, I'm just not sure that Isidore is worth $1 million more than Krupi. I think Isidore's got good minutes. He's got good data. He might return, but most weeks I'd bench him anyway. So at that point, maybe I just go all the way down to Krupi. Now, if you promised me that Krupi played 90 minutes against Villa, maybe this would be the play. But even when Ilvin Nelson wasn't there, he played 69. Last week, he barely made 60. Can you confirm he starts? No. And even if he starts, can you confirm he gets more than 55, 60 minutes? Also no. It could very easily be a one-pointer. And with Foster, he was ill last week. Fleming scored a brace against Wolves. Can you even confirm he starts? Could I go for someone like Calvert-Lewin? I don't want to do that. So as much as I love Brian Mbeumo and Bruno Fernandes, and I'd like the pair of them, I have to look at option 1 as just being the stronger one overall. But like I say, structure-wise, I actually would argue that I prefer the structure of 2, which is strip the money out of the 8th attacker and invest more of it into that sort of starting 11 position. So there we go. I think as of right now, if I go back to my team, and I would love your opinion, as of right now, I think Gyökeres and stack to Enzo, Thiago. Thiago would probably be the player that I bench this week. I'm bench boosting, of course, but he would be the one that I'd say overall against Newcastle at home, he's probably my 8th best attacker. And in a lot of weeks, Thiago will sit there on the bench. And you might think that is too much money, but I suppose eventually it might be that I downgrade Semenyo and Saka to get like Salah and King or something like that. You know what I mean? To strip the money out of one of the positions to upgrade Saka to a Salah if we feel like we need him around game week 13. So I will stop yapping because I said I'll make this a short video. Let me know what you think of my team. Let me know what you think of the bench boost. And yeah, let's have some fun with FPL. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 11 team selection. Hopefully you did enjoy it. And if you did, please do smash that like button and make sure to subscribe as well. I really appreciate it. It is double upload day, so make sure to check out deadline decisions later this afternoon. But thank you very much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.